Guys, I thought I'd be back. Today's video is on the Star Wars Battlefront series. Now, today's video we're going to be talking specifically about Battlefront 2 and how it started and how it ended. Specifically, what people thought on launch and what people thought at the end. Now, this also will use my thoughts in this video too. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Star Wars Battlefront originally was created in 2004 by a studio by the name of Pandemic Studios. They were up at this time making third-person shooters, and it was at this time where they would make a deal with Lucasfilm to make a third-person shooter. They wanted a sandbox war game, so they did so, and in 2004 and 5 released up to 2 games. These were released at the time of the prequel trilogy when they were releasing prequel movies, and it helped the prequels in terms of marketing, specifically with Star Wars Battlefront 2 because it had Revenge of the Sith in it, so this would ultimately help Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm would end up working on other games. So both of those games were surprisingly revolutionary for their releases. The reason why I say so is because how much there was in both of those games. So yeah, 10 years later, and EA would be working on the new Star Wars games, but this time Lucasfilm will not be working on them because Disney was working on these games, specifically EA. 10 years later, that there would be a new Battlefront game, and like I said before, this time it'd be made by EA. Now, Star Wars Battlefront 1 by EA released in late 2015, this time for the 8th gen consoles. And to it received a decent amount of copies, ranging in the 6 to 8 million copies span. The game ended up receiving pretty mediocre to absolutely negative reviews. Overall, I think the game is pretty okay. Had they added more content, okay, it would have been good. But after all, this was EA. There wasn't much to expect. 2 years down the line, however, and EA decides to jump back into the Battlefront games. I don't know why I had to make that sound weird. And this time, they'd be receiving a lot of controversy for it, specifically with the loot boxes. Yeah, Battlefront 2 launched all the way in November 2017 and was criticized. But not only its game itself, but because it had microtransactions. This would lead to the government getting involved, and eventually the loot boxes were lifted off and transformed into cosmetics. And eventually updates were added to the game, which was still a problem in the game at launch. So when these new updates came, microtransactions left, something new would happen, and it would be amazing. Star Wars Battlefront 2 has gotten to be a much better game, with it surprisingly receiving general praise now because it's gotten better. They started updating the game and have dropped the loot boxes into being cosmetic. Overall, I think that Star Wars Battlefront 2 has become a much better game. I started playing when this game started getting good, which is a pretty good thing to have, and I'm glad that Battlefront 2 has gotten better and that EA was able to redeem the game. Sadly though, updates for Battlefront 2 EA will not be seen ever. Despite the game being pretty good, there will be no updates, but still. Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the Star Wars Battlefront games will always be a legacy.